Hello, everyone. Welcome to Thursday edition of Take 5, where most of the summer I'm anticipating we're going to be dealing with the issue of enigma. The book of Ecclesiastes will be our text as we reflect on life and we reflect on this enigma called life. We don't get it at times. You're going to plan a picnic on Saturday and, it's going to be great and it rains. Or it's all about trying to figure out life. You make your plans. You've got your worldview, and then the world itself, life itself, throws you a curveball. For the few minutes that we've got on this Take 5, I wanted to tell you why I chose this book and why I love this book. I've been along with the book of Romans. This is probably the one book of the Bible I've studied the most. 1984, 37 years of ministry. I love this book because in a day of cliches, in a day of black and white answers for everything, the book of Ecclesiastes is anti-cliche. It's not black and white at all. In a day where we love our formulas, give me 3 steps on how to have a better marriage, or 5 steps to raise my kids, steps that don't work, that just are sort of shallow, superficial ways of behavior modification. In a day of formula, Ecclesiastes is anti-formula. It's an honest look at life. We're calling this series an enigma. Life is a puzzle. Life is a riddle. I like to consider Ecclesiastes' view of life is like the New York Times crossword puzzle. That if you ever tried to do it, it's really hard. The Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle. The writer of Ecclesiastes is saying life is like the Sunday New York Times crossword puzzle, and all of us have no more than a second grade education. We can't figure it out. And so here's what he says about it. Again, right at the beginning of the book, he calls himself the teacher, or the ecclesiastic is what it would be in Latin and Greek. The Hebrew is koheleth. He's the leader of the assembly. He sees himself leading people. He calls himself David, king of Jerusalem, probably Solomon. And then here's what he says. In the King James, we've heard it over and over again. Vanity, vanity, everything is vanity. My version, the Christian Standard Bible, says absolute futility. Absolute futility. Everything is futile. Can I take a step back and say that's really neither one of those is really the right word? Vanity, they're just getting that from the Latin. Jerome translated the Hebrew word vanitas, and the King James Bible just borrowed from the Latin. So vanity is not the best word. Futile is not the best word either. I think they're all borrowing from the King James. The New International Version has meaningless. Life isn't meaningless, and that's not going to be his point. The word that he uses here, and I don't want to get too lofty with you, but the Hebrew word he uses here is hevel. In English it would be Hebel, and it literally means a breath or a vapor. And what he's saying is life is it's like vapor of vapors. All is vapor. Well, what's vapor? Vapor is a breath. You try to grasp it and you can't get a hold of it. It's brief. It's unmanageable. You try to grab life, its meaning, and it gets away from you. It's like a vapor. Let me show you a couple of passages just to illustrate that. In chapter 3 and verse 11, the writer says this: God has made everything appropriate in his time. God has put eternity into our hearts, but no one can discover the work God has done from the beginning to the end. What is he saying? God has put in our hearts the desire to understand life, to put eternity in our hearts, to want to know that there's more than just the concrete. He's put it in our hearts, and yet what does he say? No one can discover what God has done from the beginning to the end. He's just making an honest statement about life that you try to understand it and you can't. And whether it's reading the terrible headlines of COVID and pandemic and of murder and of injustices or whatever it is of life, you try to look at life and you think, I don't get it. That's why I like this book. This book looks at life really, really honestly. And as we reflect on our own lives, we need an honest look. It's not hopeless. It gives us tremendous hope. Although we don't understand how to grab life, we know the one who does, and that's where he will take us. I hope you're going to stick with me. Ecclesiastes is an honest look of life that says, come look at it with me, but look at it with reality, knowing that we pee-wee little humans cannot really grasp the meaning of life as we see it. We'll continue again on Tuesday with this study of Ecclesiastes. See you on Tuesday.